I want to start today by taking you somewhere. Imagine we're in the scrublands of southern Africa. It's pitch dark, you can hear the sounds of the bush all around you,
Hmm.
and we're talking about a legend, one the local San people have passed down for generations. It's about a predator so ferocious, so unbelievably efficient, that the story goes it can take down a full-grown giraffe.
Which is, I'm just trying to visualize that is terrifying. A giraffe is a skyscraper with hooves. The physics are just impossible.
Exactly. The legend says this thing latches onto the giraffe's neck, pierces the jugular vein, just pure concentrated lethality. So
Uh-huh.
I want you to hold that image in your mind, the power, the violence.
Okay.
Now shrink it. Shrink it way down until it weighs less than 2 kilograms.
Yeah, it's maybe 4 pounds. To put that in perspective for you, that's smaller than your average pet rabbit.
Today, we are doing a deep dive into the black-footed cat. It stands about 8 inches tall. It's got these huge saucer-like eyes, and honestly, it looks like a stray tabby you'd find sleeping on a porch.
It really does.
But here's the kicker. Scientists, locals, wildlife experts.
Yeah.
They all agree. This tiny, adorable fluff ball is the deadliest cat on Earth.
It's the ultimate contradiction, isn't it? On one hand, you have an animal that looks like it belongs on a greeting card.
Mhm.
On the other, you've got a biological machine that's just engineered for killing.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to try and reconcile those two images. The prompt today is really to understand why. Why do zoologists call it the deadliest cat, and why do locals call it the anthill tiger?
Yeah.
We've got a whole stack of sources here, everything from that folklore to hard statistical data from radio collar studies, and even some pretty heavy genomic research from 2024 that, honestly, it changes everything about this animal's future.
And that genomic data is so important because it reveals the cost of being this deadly. It turns out being a high-performance biological machine comes with a very, very steep price.
Let's start with the physical profile, because I think that disconnect between how they look and how they act is what really pulls you in. If I saw one in the wild, my first instinct would be to try and pet it.
Which would be a mistake.
A huge mistake. But looking at the specs, they're just tiny.
The smallest wildcat in Africa
Yeah.
and the second smallest in the entire world. I mean, to give you the numbers, females weigh between, say, 1.1 and 1.6 kilograms. The males top out around 2.4.
So we're talking about an apex predator that's significantly smaller than the domestic cat that's probably sleeping on your sofa right now.
Oh, absolutely. And they have that classic, cute look.
They really do.
It's that round face, the enormous eyes. But those eyes aren't just for show. Their night vision is something like 6 times better than a human's. They need every bit of that light.
And the fur is this beautiful tawny cinnamon color with these bold black spots. But the name, black-footed cat, it felt wrong to me at first. I was looking at photos and I was expecting, black socks.
Right, a lot of people think that. You have to look underneath. The name, Felis nigripes, it refers specifically to the soles of their feet. The paw pads are pitch black.
Oh, okay.
But here's the detail that tells you everything about their life. Those pads are covered in thick, black hair, almost like a felt pad.
Like little desert boots.
Exactly. It's insulation. They live where the sand can get hot enough to blister skin. And interestingly, unlike most wild cats that have dark skin for sun protection, the black-footed cat has pink skin.
Pink skin.
Pink skin, it just adds to that deceptive, vulnerability. It looks soft. But the field reports are very, very clear. They have not a domestic bone in their bodies. Early naturalists called them savage and unsociable.
Okay, so a pink skin, 4-pound savage. But let's get to the core of this, the title, Deadliest Cat on Earth. When I first heard that, I thought it had to be clickbait. I mean, lions exist, tigers exist. How does this thing hold that title?
It all comes down to how you define deadly. It's not about size. It's not about the size of the prey. It's about efficiency. It's about the success rate.
So every time you step up to the plate, how often do you get a hit?
Precisely. Let's look at the benchmarks. A lion, so-called king of beasts. Its success rate is, maybe 20 to 25%?
So it fails 3 or 4 times out of 5.
Right. It's a struggle. A leopard does better, maybe 38%. Your average domestic cat is around 32%. Now, the black-footed cat, its success rate is 60%.
60, that is absurd. That's almost triple a lion's success rate.
It makes them the most efficient hunter in the entire cat family. But the stat that really blows my mind isn't the percentage, it's the sheer volume of kills.
Because of that metabolism you mentioned.
Exactly. It runs incredibly hot, like a hummingbird's. To keep that engine going, they need to eat up to 20% of their body weight every single night.
20%. I'm trying to visualize that. That's like a person eating, what, 40 or 50 pounds of food for dinner.
Every single night. They can't just have one big meal and sleep for 3 days like a lion can. They have to constantly refuel. And this drives a behavior that is just relentless. They don't really sleep at night. They travel huge distances, up to 16 kilometers or 10 miles in a single go.
And what does that translate to in terms of, body count?
It's a massacre.
Yeah.
They kill between 10 and 14 small animals every single night.
Yeah.
You do the math, that averages out to a kill every 50 minutes.
So if you're a gerbil in the Karoo, when the sun goes down, you're basically living in a horror movie.
It is an absolute horror movie. One paper estimated that a single cat takes out up to 3,000 rodents a year. They're these tiny, furry weapons of mass destruction.
But they're not just stumbling on these kills, right? The outline mentioned they have different gears for hunting.
Oh, and this is key to that 60% success rate. They have 3 distinct techniques they switch between. The first is the fast hunt. This is when they're in taller grass. The cat just bounds through it, moving quickly, trying to flush things out. It's not about stealth. It's about forcing prey to make a mistake.
High energy.
Very high energy. So they can't do that all night. They switch to the slow hunt. This is classic stalking. They slow way down, meandering, head turning side to side, just scanning with those incredible eyes and ears.
Now, what's the third one?
The third is my favorite because it shows their patience. It's the sit and wait.
The stakeout.
The stakeout. They find an active rodent burrow, and they just sit outside it, and they freeze for up to 2 hours, motionless.
2 hours for an animal with that kind of metabolism.
It's a calculated risk. The sources say they sometimes close their eyes, but their ears are constantly flicking, rotating, pinpointing sound. The second a rodent's head pops up, it's over.
It's that versatility. They can chase you, they can stalk you, or they can just outweight you.
And they can snatch you right out of the air. We have to mention the jump.
Oh, right. The verticality.
They can jump 1.5 meters straight up. That's 5 feet. For a cat that's maybe 8 inches tall at the shoulder.
That's like a person jumping over a 2-story building.
Roughly, yeah. They use it to catch birds in flight. And they don't just stick to mice. They take down Cape hares, which weigh as much as they do, and even large birds. They are incredibly ambitious.
Which brings us to the attitude. We've covered the deadliest cat title, but the locals call them the anthill tiger, Mir Shuptir.
It's such a perfect name. The anthill part is their housing. Yeah. They can't really dig their own burrows, so they're real estate opportunists.
They squat.
They squat. In hollowed-out, abandoned termite mounds, these things are hard as concrete and climate-controlled inside. Perfect dens.
So that's the anthill. What about the tiger?
That's the personality. This is a solitary animal that just does not understand the concept of backing down.
And we see that in the field reports, right? About predators.
We do. They are prey for jackals, caracals, owls. But there are accounts of black-footed cats turning around and fighting jackals.
A jackal is easily 8 times their size.
At least. Imagine a house cat deciding to fight a German shepherd and actually holding its ground. They're also incredibly loud. They have this roar or very deep meow that's way louder than you'd expect and carries over huge distances.
It really is this image of a solitary warrior, just pure grit. But, and this is where the story takes a turn, for all this efficiency, for all this bravado, the species is walking a tightrope.
It is. The IUCN lists them as vulnerable, and the population is decreasing. We think there are fewer than 10,000 mature individuals left. And when you look closely, you realize that being a high-performance specialist is actually a very dangerous way to live.
It goes back to that metabolism, doesn't it? If they fail to hunt for a night or two, what happens?
They face starvation. They live on a metabolic knife edge. But the threats are bigger than that. It's the environment and its genetics.
Let's talk about Gyra. She was the cat in those BBC and PBS documentaries that really brought the species to global attention.
Right. Gyra. Millions of people watched her raise a kitten, navigate the dangers of the night. But Gyra's story ended tragically, and it wasn't a predator that got her. It was a disease.
Specifically something called AA amyloidosis.
Yes, and this is where the new research comes in. For years, we knew these cats died of kidney failure in captivity, about 70% of them. This condition, amyloidosis, is where abnormal proteins build up in the organs.
Kind of like sludge in an engine.
Exactly. It just clogs the kitties until they fail. But it's even crueler for a hunter. The inflammation can also affect their hearing.
Wow. So before it kills them, it deafens them.
Potentially. Think about the sit-and-wait hunt. It relies entirely on hearing the faintest scratch of a mouse underground. If a black-footed cat goes deaf, it can't hunt. If it can't hunt, that metabolism kills it.
And the 2024 genomic study you mentioned, that explains why this is happening.
It's a grim finding. It shows that because their habitat is being chopped up by farms and roads, these solitary cats can't travel far enough to find unrelated mates. They're being forced to inbreed.
So the gene pool is shrinking.
Rapidly. And the researchers identified specific gene variants, one called IQCB1, that are linked to this kidney disease, and also to retinal atrophy, which causes blindness.
That is just terrifying. So they are genetically predisposed to losing their sight and their hearing.
Yes. And the inbreeding is making those bad genes show up more and more often. It's a vicious cycle. We fragment their land, they inbreed, and the genetic time bomb ticks faster. The most efficient hunter on Earth loses the very tools that make it successful.
It's a tragic irony. The things that make them so elite, that high-wire metabolism, that sensory perfection, are the very things that make them so fragile.
That's the vulnerability paradox. A jackal can eat trash. A lion can survive a lot. The black-footed cat is a specialist, and specialists are always the first to suffer when the world breaks.
It really changes how you see that 60% success rate. It's not a high score, it's a bare minimum for survival.
Exactly. Failure is not an option.
So let's bring this back to where we started. The sand legend. The tiny cat and the giraffe. Physically, we know it's impossible. A 4-pound cat can't kid a 2,000-pound giraffe. The physics just don't work.
No, they don't.
But after all this, the attitude, the ferocity, the anthill tiger, do you think the legend is trying to say something else?
I think it has to be. Folklore often captures the spirit of an animal, not the literal biology. If you watch one hunt, the focus, the utter lack of fear, it feels like an animal that could kill a giraffe. It has the soul of a tiger in the body of a toy.
It's a way of saying, respect this creature.
Precisely. It's a warning. Don't be fooled by the cute face. This thing is a killer. And frankly, if they were the size of a leopard,
We would not be having this conversation. We'd be hiding.
we wouldn't stand a chance.
It really leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? We marvel at the biggest and strongest. But here's an animal that perfected survival through efficiency. Yet in the Anthropocene, in our world, that very perfection might be its downfall.
It is. It asks you to consider.
Yeah.
Is being the deadliest actually a survival disadvantage now? Evolution built the perfect mousetrap, but we've completely changed the house.
A sobering thought to end on. It's a reminder that even the most ferocious among us can be incredibly fragile.
Absolutely.
That wraps up our deep dive into the tiny, fierce, and vulnerable world of the black-footed cat. Thanks for listening.
Stay curious.